the Uncut Podcast presented by Joe and Theo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the Uncut Podcast. And oh my God, has the past couple of weeks been full of insanity. And guys, I gotta say this, we got a jam-packed episode. We're gonna be talking about only one of the two subjects, because trust me, there's so much shit that happened in the past couple of weeks since the last episode we did. And honestly, there's no intro I could do to cover all of that, so let's just get right into it. As always, I'm Theo, and I'm joined here with my incredible co-host, Joe. Joe, how are you feeling? And seriously, like, holy crap, what has been happening these past couple of weeks?
It's been a very interesting month, maybe month and a half, I would say, since we did the biopic on Trump versus Biden. It's been a very crazy last couple of weeks, but
yeah.
But I know that's the main story and what we're going to be diving into this episode. But what I just want to kind of get your opinion on is, like, we did the Olympic episode last episode about the fraud and everything going on. What a crazy week it's been. We're 2 weeks. We're 2 weeks. The Olympics are wrapping up this Friday at the time of recording. It's insane what's been going on about this games. And we thought we covered a lot in that episode. I didn't think France could top that. Like, I didn't, and we can have a whole episode about that. Like,
Yes, we can.
But just before we get into the whole U.S. election, I just want to kind of, like, get a little bit of your opinion about how you felt about the Olympics. It's kind of insane. Think about it. You've had the controversy around the opening ceremony with let's call it the Last Supper kind of reenactment. I know they said it wasn't, but. And
no,
they said
crap.
They said it was the gods of Olympus and all that stuff. Take it for what
really?
you will.
So you want to go after the gods of Olympus?
But I'm just saying that's kind of what they went to. And then you had the French drag with his testicle or her testicle, I don't care, with their testicle literally hanging out on live television. That was day one, night one.
That was the opening ceremony.
It was the opening ceremony.
That was how France said, "Welcome to the Olympics."
Two days later, Canada gets caught using a drone in practices, and they get a 6-point deduction. Still qualify for the knockout round, and then get eliminated by Germany in penalty shots.
Thumbs up.
That was insane. You had the meme of the Turkish shooter. The guy walks in, no equipment, no visor, no nothing, pulls up a silver medal, and apparently wasn't the only reason why he didn't want to go for gold is because he was just too tired and didn't want the gold medal. He didn't want it. He purposely got second, is what people are saying. I don't know if you saw, but you also had the Belgian biker. I guess kind of like in the biking competition, or like the Tour de France kind of. I don't know what the hell it's called. Cycling.
Cycling.
But not like not the cycling where they wear the whole get-ups and they go around in a track, but like the proper cycling. He won by over a minute, and you know when it's like a "this is him" moment, the dude slowed down at the start finish, got off his bike, held the bike, and posed like Bellingham.
No way.
Oh, dude, it's been an insane Olympic tournament. It's coming to an end. Just kind of want to get your opinions. Did you anything you found interesting about these last 2 weeks since we last filmed, and any thoughts about the Olympics?
For the Olympics specifically, as I said, I don't really follow the whole thing, but you cannot escape it. You could not escape the controversy that these Olympics in France caused. These Paris Olympics caused. You couldn't escape it. I've been seeing countless memes of the guy, the Turkish shooting range athlete. Countless memes. I've been seeing countless of really angry posts about the Last Supper, right?
Yeah.
Rightfully so. It was a huge fuck you to that entire religion, right? Then on top of that, you have, I think there was a swimmer that started vomiting in the Seine.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't even mention that. Yeah, the La Seine and everything that was going on there with the pollution. My God.
Which is insanity. Then you have enormous corporations like Samsung pulling out right after the opening ceremony. That's $1 billion leaving. So you can't escape it. It was, to me, just looking at the information that I have without really watching the events, right? Except watching them very sporadically here and there, but just seeing the news that was coming out. oh my God, it looks like a shit show. And as I'm seeing it happen, I'm like, oh my God, we already have episode 11.
The athletes' village not having any air conditioning during a massive heat wave in France.
That's nuts. That is nuts.
They're literally sleeping on cardboard. This is a whole different subject. They're sleeping on cardboard beds too. Like,
it's not. It's not normal. It's not normal.
It's insane.
In all honesty, and I think I read somewhere that France spent close to $8 billion for this event.
Couldn't put an AC and air conditioning either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could have put mattresses and ACs and like.
And then there's that whole other story too, where they kick students out of their dorms for the athletes to even stay there. Athletes? Yeah, for the athletes' village. So, like, there's a lot that transpired since the last episode we did. But switching topics and going on to maybe a little bit more recency and kind of like what we want to get into this episode. The United States never fails in anything. Number one in the Olympics and number one in electoral voting, apparently,
drama.
Because
number one in
electoral drama. Because apparently, Joe Biden has dropped out of the political debates, or not. He hasn't dropped out of the political debate, but he's dropped out of the running for U.S. presidency. Yeah. And just yesterday or 2 days ago, Kamala Harris has announced her VP. And Kamala Harris is now actually running for presidency in place of Joe Biden. That's a crucial part of that sentence. What a wild week it's been. What a wild month of July it's been. It's insane.
As I've said, and I think I told you this the other time when we were talking about this, I really think like the U.S. elections have turned into like a sitcom. It's turned into like a reality TV drama. It's like, it's nuts. And yeah, we're going to get into each one of these topics. And I think it's going to be kind of toying the line between us kind of cracking some jokes because it is like insanity.
Oh, it's comedic.
But also there's also some real kind of topics here that kind of need to be discussed, right? Because Biden stepping down and Kamala Harris taking over is changing a bit of the face of the race, right? And I want to kind of start here. Like, yeah, Biden stepped down. And I don't know if you know why. They got a lot, like especially the Democratic Party, got a lot of pressure from the donors, the people that were kind of funding Biden, for Biden to step down. For Biden to essentially step down and walk away. Because after the first debate, I'm sorry, like the Democrats had zero chance of beating the Republicans, of beating Trump.
Well,
I mean, Biden came out and called President Zelensky Vladimir Putin, right? Yeah. Granted, Trump has done some other stupidities too, but come on, like
I think he also referred to Trump as Vice President Trump at one point.
Something like that.
It was kind of insane. But yeah, I just kind of want to touch on the point you just said there, the backers and the first debate. And that's kind of what really showed the Democratic Party that Biden really showed his age in that debate.
Yeah,
exactly. He did. And I know he didn't want to step down, and there was pride in that. And obviously you're the U.S. president, right? And you want to go for that second term, and you worked your whole life to get there. Granted, it took a little bit long, but you worked your whole life to get there. And it's like, well, you're not going to go down because, people are doubting you. People doubt you your whole life, right? You're going to keep going and you're going to try to prove them wrong. But for Biden, man, that debate, granted, they're both old. Like, they're both in their 80s.
Yeah,
Trump in his late 70s, but by the time his presidency ends, he'll be in his 80s. Biden really showed his age. He really didn't look fit to lead a country at that moment in time, and even following that first debate, didn't look like he was ready to lead. He looked like an old man who belonged in a nursery home.
Well, look, exactly, and listen, the financial backers of the Democratic Party showed that. I mean, before Biden stepped down, Biden's camp had raised $96 billion. Trump had raised $128.1. Now, granted, you could say that a lot of that money maybe came from Trump himself, but still, right? After Biden stepped down, Harris now being the woman that's kind of leading the charge for the Democratic Party in the election race, Democrats have now raised $284 million to Trump's $217.
Yeah.
So money has flown back into the party. And this is really kind of what I want to touch on for the first section, so to speak, right? Kamala Harris has taken it over, right? Do you think she stands a chance? Maybe I wouldn't say there's a better chance to compete with Trump. Do you think she actually stands a chance to become president of the United States?
It's a good question. It's something I flip flop on back and forth between yes and no. Truth is, I don't really know. I don't, and there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? Kamala not really being, I guess if you want to put it in the spotlight too much.
Yeah,
I think maybe plays a factor in that, and how maybe the U.S. views her, and that could be good or bad, to be honest with you, depending on how people perceive that, but at the same time, I guess the most dueling question is this, and this goes back to the 2016 election with Hillary Clinton: is the United States ready to elect their first female president? That's a huge question, because in 2016 they weren't ready. Are they ready now? Are people over the skepticism that the presidency is a male's job?
Well, let's talk about that 2 seconds, and that's why I want to talk about this subject first before talking about the other major thing that happened in the elections. The thing is this: I personally speaking, I don't think so, and there's 2 real reasons why I don't think so. So first reason is you can't really compare what happened to Hillary to what's happening now with Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
Hillary was dirty. She was a dirty person, dirty politician.
Yeah, with the whole Benghazi emails being leaked, and Trump really playing into that aspect during that 2016 campaign election, right?
Correct. Exactly. Kamala Harris, well, for as much as we know to date, right? Because we haven't seen what information is going to come out from the Republican Party, which is 100% going to do some digging to try and pull out information. They're already talking about her sleeping her way to the top, so they're definitely going to dig up some dirt to try and push it out. But Kamala has a different kind of card being dealt to her right now, and that card is, like you correctly said, she hasn't been in the spotlight as a vice president, at least not as much as other vice presidents. And I can actually make the comparison a bit to
let's go full Canadian on this.
Full Canadian. But I can actually make the comparison to how Biden was as a vice president under Obama, right? And how much, again, granted, he was a vice president, he wasn't the president, but Biden did have an active role in the administration. Kamala Harris in this administration really feels like she's just there. And I think that's kind of one card that's going to play against her. And the other card, because I know you really want to talk about, the sleeping and getting to the top and all of that, but the other card that I think has to play here, and I don't know your opinion on this, is how annoyed is the U.S. population about all the kind of woke momentum that's been occurring? Well, right? Because yes, on the internet we see, and this was the first kind of episode we talked about, right? On the internet we see kind of the minority having the loudest voice, right? And echoing the loudest through the channels. But in the election, this is kind of where the silent majority will kind of show their hands, right? So I think those are the 2 cards that are going to play, I would tend to say, against her. And in all honesty, I don't think the U.S. is as woke as we think they are, right? Don't forget, she is a woman and she is African American. So, right. So I don't know how these things are gonna play. So, what do you think, honestly, about this?
Well, yeah. Well, I just want to, before I go into that side of it, I just want to kind of go back to what you touched on before about the allegations and what might come up. It's Kamala, for the most part, like, let's be honest, she doesn't have nowhere near the experience Biden had in office or in Congress prior to running for presidency.
Yeah.
She didn't. And the same thing kind of went for Obama as well. When you think about his electoral campaign, he wasn't really in Congress long enough for anybody to really have anything. And granted, in 2008 was a bit of a different time. They weren't really digging up dirt on each other as much. They were really kind of going against more their points of view, and Obama was fighting for Obamacare, and at that time I think it was God.
Well, also there was a huge
Gore.
difference. Well, at that point, also, we were right in the middle of the Great Recession of 2008, right?
Yeah.
Which was put squarely on the shoulders of the Republican Party. So that was another thing, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't only that, but it was either whoever had the presidency at that time was going to have to guide the U.S. through that.
Exactly.
So I don't think it was so much about Republican or Democratic. It was just so much whoever you elected was going to have to guide the country through a very difficult time. And you can kind of make the argument right now, whoever is elected is still going to have to guide the country through a very difficult time. Granted, a little bit different of an economical situation, but at the same time, you have a very different social environment to deal with than you did in 2008. Hell, than you did in 2012, than you did in 2016, and you did in 2020. It's a very
geopolitical environment.
That's too, right? Well, the geopolitics have always been there. Let's call it what it is. Granted, now there's a little bit more of a war side to it. But the geopolitics haven't changed. It's still, it's still United States and Israel. It's still Russia versus the U.S. That hasn't changed since goddamn the Cold War in the 1970s. Like, that's just the way it is with the presidency.
Yeah, but it's heated up to a point where conflict has erupted.
It's heated up where conflict has erupted, but the conflict has always been there. It's nothing new for the president at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes, the conflict is an all-time, I think, stalemate right now. But I don't think it's going to be that much of a bigger factor to the average voter, or maybe it is. I don't know. Neither do you ultimately, because we need to get there. But what I'm just trying to say is, like, when Biden was running for presidency, he had a lot more time in Congress. He had a lot more time as vice president for dirt to be dug up on him. The thing with Kamala is she's, she hasn't really had as much time in that Oval Office, in that Congress role, to really do anything of note per se. But since being vice president, she has spoken up for a lot of rights in abortions. She has spoken up for a lot of rights for African Americans in the U.S. She has spoken up quite a bit on what she wants to get done. That might be maybe her biggest strength going against Trump, is the fact that, hey, there's not too much dirt on this person. And if you get into verbal jabs, you look a lot worse, with the court hearing that's going to be, not with the court hearing. The court hearing already happened, but with his sentencing coming up in the next couple of weeks, he can't, as much as he wants to go blow for blow with somebody about dirt sheets, I guess, if you want to put it like that, he has a lot more dirt on him than I think you can dig up on Kamala at this point. That's my point of view on it. Yeah. So I think for his best interest, it's not to go down that route, because he's gonna lose. He's gonna lose if you get into a verbal argument with that. You're gonna lose every single time, because there's a lot more dirt on you right now that's been in the spotlight than her. And Kamala doesn't have. I don't think Kamala has a Benghazi situation behind her either, or a former U.S. president that was impeached either. So she's in a lot better situation, I think, Hillary was in 2016. The other thing you brought up, the sleeping to the top point of view, that's such a stupid debate. That's such a stupid debate. And I don't even want to get into that debate. And like, at the end of the day, it's like, how do you... It's a double-edged sword, right? Because if you're going to call her... basically a slut for sleeping her way to the top, then you have to look at Trump and basically call him a man whore for the amount of shit he's done in real estate and in entertainment, where, if one slept their way to the top, one quite literally slept his way to the top and slept while he was on top. And that's Donald Trump, because I don't think he was awake during any of the debates or any of the presidency time. That's such a stupid, dumb argument to make. And people go, oh, well, look at her relationships. They've all been with politics. I'm like, yeah, but she's a politician herself. It's natural. You're gonna have romantic relationships with people you work around. That's just common knowledge. That's why we have HR departments at work, because they know colleagues are gonna get into relationships with one another, because there's common interest there. There's common ground there for those two people to have conversation with and possibly have interest in one another. So it's a normal thing to have happen. The same thing with a lot of actresses. Like, The same thing with a lot of actresses. They get into a relationship with other actresses. The same thing with a lot of wrestlers. They get into a relationship with a lot of wrestlers because they know each other inside and out. They know what they go through on a day-to-day basis. So it makes sense that would happen. I know you have a different point on that, and I'll let you talk about it. And I know you want to go into it a little bit more, so I'll let you go into it. But that's just my opinion. The whole sleeping to the top thing is stupid. It's completely, it's such an irrelevant conversation to be having in 2024. It is the dumbest thing. And it just kind of goes into the whole, we're not ready to have a woman president either, because look at the backlash that got too. You know, the fact that makes front page news in a political debate. Oh, look who she slept with. Like, fuck off. Like, I don't care who she slept with. I care about what she's going to do when she's elected. I don't give a shit. And then I think Trump said, oh, like she's against the Jews or something like that. Again, kind of alluding to your geopolitical stance, that she's against the Jews. It's like, she's married to a fucking Jew. I like the dumbassery that's coming out of this. It's like, oh, we're just trying to find anything and just hope it sticks to a wall when it comes to the voters. And the amount of false information, false accusations going around is kind of insane on that point. And then the wokeness stuff. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, the part on the whole wokeness situation, that's a completely other topic in and of itself. And I think Americans are... The thing with the wokeness situation, and this is for anybody, if you go on X or Twitter, previously known, and you go just see kind of what's popping up on there and just randomly looking at it, especially the stuff Elon retweets, you know, not to bring it back to the Olympics, but we can go back to the Olympics. Look at the outrage that happened when people thought that female boxer, Iman Khalif, was a trans male, allowed to fight against females. Now, yes, did she get banned from the previous women's world boxing championships because they found XY chromosome? According to reports, the answer is yes. But keep in mind, though, that competition, that organization is not exactly known to have the most clean testing environment, and not known to be the most truthful of organizations. So they're a bit of a scumbag boxing organization in and of itself. So it's hard to take their word for it, and they're not the most eligible. I think that's clear. And the IOC, isn't either, to the most part, and they have their own agenda that they maybe want to push through. It's a bit difficult to say, but you saw the outrage that caused, like just going on Twitter, just going everywhere, right? Oh, the Italian boxer that she fought was in tears, and she said she never said any of that. She just said she's never been hit that hard in her life. And you know what? To even say that, if it is a male fighting female, she has a fucking losing record. So, and she comes from a country where that kind of shit is illegal and will get you killed. So, I feel like that's Americans just trying to start up their own point of conversation, where I think people in the States are tired of hearing things like,
now,
you can't refer to he, him, she, her. It has to be they, them, and all this type of stuff. And I think a lot of people are getting kind of annoyed that.
And that's what I want to touch on, right?
And don't get me wrong, I don't think it's a majority of people that are pissed off about. I just think it's a small minority of people in that community, right? And I say the LGBT community. I think it's a small minority of people in that community that speak for the majority. And the part is that minority is like, it's like left versus right. I'm going to put it like that, right? And you have extremists on both ends.
It correctly. Right. At the end of the day, the reason why I brought it up, and why I brought up these two cards that are playing against Kamala Harris, is I do think they're going to play against her, right? Because you correctly said it. You correctly kind of pointed it out. The majority of the minority groups, such as the LGBTQ community, are just going about their lives, right?
Yeah.
Fine. That's perfectly fine. And all they're asking is, hey, just don't bother me. Just let me live my life comfortably. That's it.
Yes.
The thing is, however, the way social media works, and I'm taking social media because that's become the primary way that media gets diffused to the rest of the population. The way social media works, and we talked about this on the first ever episode we ever recorded together, right, it's a megaphone. So whoever has the loudest voice, whoever has the most clicks, the most virality, is the type of person that's going to get the microphone, right? And the thing is, like you correctly pointed out, the few, I would tend to call them extremists within those minority groups, are the ones that talk the loudest. The ones that get reposted on Facebook, the ones that get reposted on Instagram, the ones that get reposted on Twitter, which is now X, right? And the thing is, you've heard the beautiful saying of it takes one rotten apple to spoil the entire basket.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. And I think that social media, again, gives you a skewed view of what reality is. But the problem is, when you have an enormous populace, the size of 300 plus million Americans, looking at social media, right? And even traditional media does this, right? This has existed for media for years. Looking at media and seeing these extreme edges being popularized and being pushed, right? They're gonna react against it. Because, like you correctly said, people are tired of walking on eggshells and not knowing how to address somebody. People don't want to send their kids to kindergarten and know that a teacher is going to be teaching them gender identity at that young age, especially when the kid just wants to see Elmo, right? So and I think that is also going to factor into this election, where the silent majority, which is the majority of people which are just, they're tired of this, is going to turn around and say to Kamala, all they need is a reason. And that reason could very well be that she slept her way to the top. And that reason could be enough to be like, okay, that's enough reason for me, that she's crooked enough. I don't care if Trump is worse. At least he stands for going for everything against these extremists that I see on the media. So I'm gonna go for him.
Okay,
get it? What I mean?
But you can
you
make that point.
understand what I'm trying to?
Yeah. No, I understand I understand what you're saying, but I'm like just trying to say is you can't make that point and go, oh, it's because Kamala slept her way to the top. No, it's either, look, Democrats are notoriously known to side on on a more liberal basis.
Yes,
they are, and that's the way their party operates. They want to be inclusive, they want to be diverse, and they want to represent a majority, and that's kind of the way they work, right?
Yeah.
Where I guess the Republicans in the last couple of years have been more known as the redneck party. And granted, some of their but it's true, and some of their political views tend that way, right? Abortions. Look at what happened there. Oh, we should ban abortions. I think like there is a thing called a middle ground.
Yeah.
And I just don't think anybody in the States has found that middle ground. And that's the saddest part, is that both parties feel like they need to be more right than the other. So where one party's more inclusive, more diverse, more allowing of other things, the other party's like, oh no, we have to go back in time, right? Look at the whole slogan, Make America Great Again. Look, and I don't want this to be a debate between left and right and left and all that type of stuff. But the only bit I just want to reiterate to you is like, dude, there's a bunch of teachers out there in the world that are gay. That's a fact. Especially in the States. There's a bunch of teachers that are probably trans in the United States. That's a fact, right? There's a bunch of but what I'm just trying to get to is that a lot of them don't say anything, and they operate like they usually would, like a normal teacher in a normal environment. And just because they're trans or gay, they shouldn't be treated any differently for that.
Right.
Question here. The point is this that I'm trying to make is there's maybe one or two out there that feel like they need to push a certain agenda as a teacher and goes into the news, which we can see articles written about. And the problem is these one or two individuals, they ruin it for everybody else, and it gets a bad reputation for it, where that's not the case. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's the small minority of people, a very small minority, that feel like they have to be extremist to teach kids who at their age don't know anything yet and don't know better of who they are and what they are. That's a fact. They're 8 or 9 years old. They're still developing. Their brains are still developing. They don't know anything yet. So for teachers to start implementing things like he, they, them, she, all this type of crap, and I'm going to say it is a bunch of crap, and I don't care if it offends people. It's the truth of the matter. Listen, you want to go by they or them, then tell me differently in the English vocabulary. They, them refers to multiple people.
Yeah.
You know, and as far as scientifically goes, yes, there's a he, which is an XY chromosome, and a she, which is an XX chromosome. You know, scientifically speaking, you can't tell me there's 102 different genders. You know, and that's fine. If you believe that, Go ahead. Write it in your books. Tell people about it. Scientifically speaking, which is the way I look at things, there's an XY, XX. Now, how you feel is how you feel, and you have the right to feel the way you feel. You know, if you want me to address you as they, them, I will address you as they, them. But understand, in my vocabulary, it's he, she, her, him, they, them, if there's multiples, male, female.
Yeah.
That's it. That's science. And you can't, there's no third gender.
Yeah,
or fourth or fifth or sixth or seventh.
And this is kind of why I brought it up, right? You said it correctly, right? It's not all of them that are like this extremist.
No.
But it's exactly like you said. The media, what it's done is it's pushed away from the middle ground and it's pushing everyone towards extremes. So now the majority of people, because we've had a democratic government, right? A Democratic Party running the government of the US with the more extreme inclusive views, the majority of people are looking at this and are like, so this is where we're heading at. They don't have a middle ground choice. The only choice they have, which is different from the direction they don't like, is the Republicans. Right. And that's what I'm trying to set up. And that's what I'm trying to get at is they kind of this entire inclusive woke narrative in the media, social media and traditional media, movies and all of that has created such an extreme in one end that it's actually pushing people to vote for the other one, even if they don't want to, because there's no middle ground.
Yeah, because they know that party stands for the opposite.
Exactly. And so they're just going to go to the opposite of what, but we don't have another choice. And this is a perfect segue now to speak about the second major thing that occurred while we were here, which is going to play a role. Because right now we just spoken a lot about the Democrats and Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah.
But let's touch on Trump and the Republicans 2 seconds, right?
Great.
For the second part of this podcast, right, of this episode. So for those of you that haven't been following the elections, there was an assassination attempt on Trump, right? And I think that was right before Biden stepped down, or I think right after. I don't remember.
Right before Biden hadn't stepped down yet when the assassination attempt took place.
So it was right before.
Yeah.
All right. So there was an assassination attempt. Obviously, the FBI killed the man, right? The man's name was Thomas Matthew Crooks. Now, there's not a lot of information. The FBI has not completed its thorough investigation. But from what the FBI has collected to date, the man was a registered Republican. And also throughout his entire time on anything they could find online, he never incited any signs of violence. Now, why am I bringing this up? This plays a very big role in, at least in my opinion, in the electoral race. Trump, after he got shot, first thing he did was stand up, put his fist up, bleeding, right? In order to showcase his so-called strength. That plays a role in imagery and how the person is seen to the public. And I think that's going to positively benefit him throughout this electoral kind of race, right? Because if we look at all the presidents, right, who have been shot at, Lincoln and Kennedy, they died martyrs, right?
Yeah.
For those that survived, which weren't many, and I think the only one right now is Trump, and you can correct me on that because I'm not too sure on that, but the only one that's come into memory that got an assassination attempt and that survived is Trump. He looks like somewhat of a hero, right? And he's going to play this card, and there's also things fueling this because Google, right?
Sorry,
which is a company.
I want to fact check you on something though.
Go ahead.
It wasn't just Kennedy and Lincoln. It was another president too, and I'm gonna forget his name. I think it was Reagan.
As I said, I'm not too sure.
I'm just double checking because I know this for a fact. He wasn't the only one. And I'm sorry if I'm taking a little bit of time here, but we do research around here. So presidents
Sometimes.
assassinated, by the way, it's Lincoln in 1865, Garfield in 1881, McKinley in 1901, and Kennedy in 1963. President shot but survived, Theodore Roosevelt 1912. Ronald Reagan was the one I was thinking of. 1981, Trump 2014. Presidents unharmed but others killed. Roosevelt in 1933, Truman in 1950, and Ford, the second attempt, in 1975. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick correction on that point.
Okay, but still, like at the end of the day, he's gonna play this hero card. He's gonna play it, right?
Yeah.
And the thing that's gonna further fuel this, right? It's the conspiracy theories that he's going to start weaving around it. Like, hey, I got shot at because the Democrats made me look bad, because they keep calling me, let's say, a threat to democracy, right? And the fact that an enormous tech company based in California, which California is traditionally democratic, right? Google, right? I'm speaking about Google, came out and admitted to blocking information regarding Trump's assassination attempt. They admitted it. They said we blocked information about that. Granted, reason for it could be to not spread misinformation, but nevertheless, that gives at least enough rope for Trump to be like, you see, Democratic-leaning companies are trying to shut me up. So, kind of want to pass it on to you, this assassination attempt, and I know Trump has a lot of dirt on him, but do you think this assassination attempt is going to play a role in Trump's electoral race?
Good question, right? It shouldn't play a role, but kind of like the criminal case against him, just gives him more street cred. I think, and in the eyes of most voters, he probably looks a lot cooler as a president than Kamala does. Like, oh shit, my president's been shot at. Oh shit, my president has slept with a prostitute and has paid her under the carpet with hush money. Oh damn, my president's cool. He wasn't in a drama club. A little bit of a Trudeau joke there, if anybody understood that. Listen, at the end of the day, I don't think it should really play a major factor into an electoral campaign. Both ways, by the way. I don't think the Democrats should be using his assassination attempt as a form of publicity to vote for the Democratic Party, because that's just wrong and stupid. And the Republicans, I don't think they should use him being shot at as a form of voting, just because like you don't want to give reason for other Republicans or people to go out there and shoot at presidential candidates in the hope that they get elected. Listen, I don't think because somebody got shot at they should be elected president. That's, like I said, stupid. The same way it's stupid for Kamala to be judged upon who she's had romantic relationships with. Is it going to sway voters? Of course it's going to sway voters. Of course, because people are going to see those memes and people are going to see, oh, look at Trump. Like this, there's a generation out there that I think has grown up on the internet way too much. you know, where I think they make a lot of their opinions based off what they see as memes and jokes, and they'll be like, oh, this, you know, like how many times as a friend group have we gone out and we basically said like, oh, you know, this would be fun, this is for the memes, man. Like,
yeah.
When it comes to, you know, adult things like this, it shouldn't be we're picking somebody because of the memes. It should be you're picking somebody because you truly believe they're the best person to lead a country and your future, not because, oh, it would be funny if, yeah, like the same thing you guys said in 2016, it would be funny if, and then what happened? You had a lot of social unrest. You had a lot of controversies. You had the whole witch hunt. You had misinformation being spread more than I think we've ever seen prior to that. You know, going back to the assassination attempt, do I think it gives him more of a chance? For some people, yeah, I think it does. I really do. And I think for other people, maybe they look at it more like, oh, okay, so do we really want to elect a president now who's hated by multiple people already and who's old? So,
well, I'm gonna talk about that. They're hated by multiple people. If you actually look at the current stats of the electoral race, and I'm taking stats from a couple of places, it's not just one of them. So like Real Clear Politics, Vote Hub, Economist, Race to the White House. Yes, Kamala is in the front, but not by a lot. She's only in the front by 0.2%.
The fact she's even in the front right now was kind of amazing.
Right.
But just to be honest, the fact, like, just hearing that number, the fact that she's in the front after only technically being nominated by her party this week, which we're the week of August 1st, if anybody's asking. It's kind of insane to even think she's leading somebody who's been on the campaign trail since he lost the last election, since January 7th, actually, because that date is forgotten about lately. But since January, he's been on the campaign trail since the 7th of January 2020. He's been running for the last 4 years. And the fact that you mean to tell me Kamala has a slight lead, it's still I'm assuming these numbers came out before she even nominated her vice president. So
way before they started coming out the moment, I think a couple of days after she actually, yes, exactly.
So that's kind of incredible to think about, actually. But continue.
Well, again, the other thing with this information that you always have to know is we saw kind of the same statistics come out during the race with Hillary. Up until the actual elections, Hillary was ahead of Trump. The thing is, and this is what media does, right? Media skews reality in order to push people to do a certain thing. If you go and you look at any media channel, whether it's a news channel, whether it's like an online website or blog that's skewed to the Democrats, they've now just recently started writing entire pages highlighting what Kamala Harris has done as vice president, which, cycle it back 3 years ago or 4 years ago, they weren't writing anything. So you have to take everything that you see in terms of statistics with a grain of salt. And I also do want to touch on the thing that you said, that he's hated by many. Trump is not hated by many. He's made to look as if he's hated by many, but he's supported by many. And silently, again, for the reasons that we talked about while speaking about Kamala Harris and the Democrats, I think he's going to be supported by even more people, just because of the way the extremes are being placed right now in terms of political choice that people have. So, yeah, he's in the media. If you go on the Democratic-leaning media, he's a villain. He's a monster. Oh my God. But if you actually look, let's say, on social media, you might start seeing a different picture. You might start seeing a picture where he's supported. People are leaning towards him. Now, why are they leaning towards him? That's a different debate. Maybe simply because people don't have a choice, because there's one extreme going to the extreme inclusivity that people don't want, and the other extreme is the only option they have. But nevertheless, that's bringing votes and numbers into Trump's camp.
Yes, but I also want to say your point too, right? You just said prior that you can't look at social, like when we were just talking about the whole woke thing, right? Yeah. Where you're like, oh, well, social media is such a small portion of maybe what people are really thinking. You can't really use that same argument now to prove a point. It's just kind of what I'm trying to get to. Listen, dude, obviously, look, Trump has a large support base. We know that. It's not a shocker, else he would have never won in 2016, right? And he wouldn't have following that he does right now in 2024.
Yeah.
It's understandable that he has a support base. Now, my question always becomes now is like, have we learned? We know what the U.S. looks like under Donald Trump. We've seen that story already. We know that story. We know what it's going to entail. It's going to entail a lot of this false information that might be put out there to make Trump look good, even though when he doesn't. Trump is somebody who always feels, even when he's wrong, he has to be right. We understand that. Trump can't look bad. Apparently, he's like The Rock, but like the Republican version of that. For those who don't know what that reference is, it's basically because during Black Adam, Rock cannot never be seen as the villain. He always has to be seen as the good guy. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's like Donald Trump always has to be seen as he's in the right, he's in the correct. No matter whatever he says, even if it's wrong, he has to show that it's right, even though the enormous amount of information proves that he's wrong in that category. And we know he's somebody that's going to create more social unjust or more social divide than social togetherness. And listen, we can point the finger at Biden and be, well, Biden hasn't really united the country either. And yeah, he hasn't much. But again, the country was already at a very fault line when Trump took over. And Trump kind of took that fault line and basically opened it wide up. And we saw that he couldn't handle it. Now, is going back to Trump any better, or do you want to see something new? And my answer is always going to be, I'd rather see what somebody else can do at this point, and a younger individual, and see where that goes, because I already know what 4 years looks under the other guy. And like we said, right, why was Trump elected in the first place? Or why was Trump nominated in the first place? I think we both know the answer. Trump was nominated because the Republican Party felt he was the best suited candidate to go up against Joe Biden.
100%.
Is he the best suited candidate to go up against Kamala Harris? My answer to that question is no. And if Trump wins this election, he wins this election not because he deserves it, but because the United States simply isn't ready to have a woman president lead their country. And not only a woman president, but a president who is also African American.
I disagree.
Elaborate.
It's not just that. I really think if Trump's going to win, it's going to be the majority of people getting sick and tired of this whole inclusivity speech and this whole woke trend that's governed and it's pushed by the Democratic Party.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about the woke. I'm talking about simply what they're talking about. I'm talking about what they're simply talking about right now in the electoral campaigns. Right now, they're talking about the economy and they're talking about the social structure of the United States. There's been no talk about wokeness or anything like that. Yeah.
Hold on 2 seconds. Right. Forget what they're talking. I'm looking at what's going to sway people eventually. Right? Because they can talk about whatever they want. It's eventually what's going to sway people.
But if Kamala Harris never comes out and politically says anything regarding, they, them, she, her, whatever the freak it is, the LGBTQ and anything like that, and she makes her campaign specifically about this, then what you're alluding to is people making a false claim in their head saying that, this is the Democratic Party. She can easily not bring up any of those topics you talked about. The same.
So what you're saying,
if she drives that conversation, I agree with you. I agree with you. She might lose that vote. But I'm just trying to say, if she never drives the conversation in anything she says, people that are voting like that are not voting correctly.
So what you're saying is that she's more powerful than the image of the entire Democratic Party.
Again, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if her campaign never alludes to any of those claims she's making, right? How can you as a voter determine, oh, okay, she said this, that's why I'm not voting for her? At the end of the day, you vote for the leader for what they say and what they do and how they act.
No, but that's the thing.
No, but that's a different subject.
The Democratic Party has a certain image.
Okay,
and
so
that's what she represents.
Okay, so you're basically going off the image of the Democratic Party. You're not going off the candidate. That plays a role. That also okay, I understand that, but I'm saying the candidate herself. So you're telling me she's not going to lose because of the wokeness. You're telling the wokeness of the Democratic Party is what's going to cause her to lose, even though she has no affiliation with the wokeness side of it.
It could, yes.
Okay, but see, but that's what I'm trying to say is your point is different. So you're saying it's not the wokeness, it's the Democratic Party's agenda that's going to make her lose.
Yes, that could be
okay,
it.
Okay, I'm just trying to say it's completely different.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't clear, but that's kind of what I'm leaning at, right?
Yeah.
So fair. People are just sick and tired of this inclusivity speech. They're sick and tired of all of this stuff. The agenda that the Democratic Party has is woke, right?
Yeah.
And what you're alluding to essentially is basically saying that Kamala Harris is going to be stronger as a political figure to overpower that image, right? Which I don't think she is.
Well, that's the debate. I guess
right,
if you really want to have it, that's kind of the debate. Is she more powerful to sway that to not have that be a factor? I'm not going to say sway the opinion, but just not have that be a factor. And that depends how she. Yeah, it's overpowered, and that's going to come down to her campaign trail and what she views and how she gets people to go along. Is inclusivity a part of this debate? Yes, but it can't be the main focal point of this debate. She has to maybe understand that. Yeah, like I said. Like I think there's people in the LGBTQ plus community too that's probably sick and tired of hearing this conversation just as much as everybody else is. But the whole point of that whole woke side of thing is just kind of like, I get why they want that. They want everybody to feel welcome. But I mean, like I said, don't let the minority of the voices speak for the majority of the voices. That's just my opinion on a lot of things, and it sways both ways too. By the way, right? You even the Republican Party, you might piss off people for saying what you say. That might sway them the other way too. Exactly. And then there is a lot you could say about that too, right? The whole abortion situation.
Yes.
Right. The whole maybe backing Israel situation might have a lot of people go the other way as well. Especially, I guess as people see more and more how Israel is acting, and all that type of stuff. And like you said, right? Well, Trump never said anything about backing Israel, but yeah, the Republican Party has in the past.
And so has the
Democratic Party.
Currently.
Yeah, but it's kind of like which one's going to say more, right?
Right, exactly.
So,
and you alluded to another point, the economy, right? The economy under the Democrats most recently, and I don't want to get into the subject because we know it's a long subject in and of itself, but it's under the Democratic Party that we've had high inflation and high interest rates, not under the Republicans.
Yeah,
so that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at that this is a game of a combination of image and a combination of unrest of people and how they view each party and then each candidate.
No, and you're not wrong. You're not wrong either, right? The Republican Party's always been known to have a great economy, at least from what I can remember, right? With the Bush, and then Trump. And I know it sounds like a lot, but there was an Obama 6-year reign in that, 8-year reign in that. There was So like I haven't seen too many presidents in my lifetime, so sorry. But you can look at that and it's like typically under the Republican Party there's been a strong economy, and under the Democratic Party there's been kind of a mediocre to above average economy. Yeah, but it's just kind of a point I want, and like I said, I understand your point of view too. And then you can kind of see the difference between the two candidates as well, right?
Yes.
You can see Trump more engaged on, this sounds weird to even be uttered out of my mouth, but more on the youth side of things. He's doing podcasts with Logan Paul. He's doing live streams with Aiden Ross, who's both are very controversial figures in and of their own rights there. Logan Paul, we know what happened, suicide forest in Japan, and we know why he's banned from going to Japan. And Aiden Ross is a complete dickbag in and of itself. I'm not even gonna censor that, but it's a weird time. I think Kamala is basically trying to keep this campaign as straight forward as possible, and I think she's trying to be as political as possible. And I think Trump is trying to be exactly what he is. He's trying to be an entertainer.
Yeah,
and that might get him elected. And the scary part is like
the same strategy he did against Hillary.
As I said,
he's a professional shit talker.
The only difference here is if he has something to shit talk about, what does he do? That's why
he'll find something.
Yeah, but he can find something. But the question is, it has to resonate with the people. Like I said, you can't go with the fact, oh well, she slept her way to the top, and now you're gonna make that thing shtick. But you're not going up against Hillary Clinton, right?
Yeah.
You're not going up with somebody whose partner was Bill Clinton, who's been impeached, the Monica Lewinsky trials, who has those Benghazi emails. You don't have that in Kamala. You have somebody who fights for women's rights. That's going to be a major talking point, because let's face it, women in the United States haven't exactly been treated equally, and I think that's going to come up quite a bit in this debate. Abortions, we know what the Republican Party thinks about abortions, and again, that's going to be another major factor. And like you said, geopolitics, that too, and social politics, right?
Yep.
The segregation in the United States, the black versus white, and everything else. That's going to be another major talking point. And I want to see how both of them handled it. Like I said, we know how Trump handled it while he was in office. There's proof of that. We don't know how Kamala is going to handle those type of situations yet. If you ask me right now who I want to win, I would rather see Kamala Harris as president of the United States, because we haven't seen that, than see Trump. Because we've seen what Trump can do in office, and I don't want to go through another 4 years of it. But I also want to touch on the other point, which were the debates, right? They have not yet had a debate scheduled.
Correct.
And before we end the subject, I think it's maybe good that we do talk about this upcoming debate, because apparently there's a lot of skepticism around it as well. The current report is that the debates, like they were with President Biden, they wanted the debates to be in no audience. They wanted the mics to be cut when the other candidate is speaking.
Yep.
Right. And most importantly, they wanted it on a platform where everybody has access to it, not just a Fox viewer, not just a CNN viewer. They want something on cable television where everybody's able to watch.
To make it as impartial as possible.
But also because they know Democrats are going to vote Democrats and Republicans are going to vote Republicans. But it's for the neutral voter who doesn't have a say in either, right? Like we alluded to, there's neutral ground here that you need to sway on both sides. So, Kamala basically still wants that to continue, right? Where Trump is basically saying like, hey, look, I don't even think he's acknowledged her yet as the candidate of the Liberal Party. Sorry, my Canadianness just came out there. Of the Democratic Party. But he's basically saying, like, you want to debate me? You'll debate me on my own terms. We'll do it in Pennsylvania, which is typically a very Republican area. We're going to do it on Fox. We're going to do it in front of a live crowd. And we're going to do it under my rules.
Yeah.
And Kamala's like, no.
You're a coward.
You're a coward. And Trump's saying, well, no, you're the coward if you're not willing to do it under my terms. So we're kind of at a stale off. I think right now, the debate is still scheduled for after Labor Day weekend, which is the 4th of September.
Yes.
So
just to touch on before kind of pulling in our closing thoughts on this whole matter. Obviously, right now, Kamala Harris looks clean. Everything looks good on her end. The one thing I do know for certain is the Republican Party is going to throw money at digging up dirt. Now, what dirt will come up, we don't know. And that's kind of where this debate on September 4th, at least we know the date, it's going to be around September 4th, is going to be crucial. Because this is really going to be where we're going to see who's going to be more organized, and who maybe is going to sway voters more, right? So again, everything you just said is right. We don't have a guaranteed place to go. We don't know where it's going to be held. I do tend to think that they're going to choose an impartial ground, right? They are going to do it in that way. They're not going to go either to a Democratic news channel, neither to Fox, right? But I think it's going to be very interesting to see what information comes out from today up until the 4th in terms of information and dirt that's necessary for both parties, really, to see what they're going to be able to throw at each other. So, personally, if you would to ask me, like you said, we know what Trump is like and we know what the U.S. under Trump is. I'm a Canadian. I'm outside of the U.S. I don't vote in the U.S. But if you ask for my opinion, economically speaking, Trump is better. Well, at least we saw that during 2016 to 2020, right? That we've seen. So from a person who's heavily invested in U.S. stocks, personally, I'd like to see Trump just for the benefit of that. But when looking at inclusivity and looking at bringing the U.S. together, yeah, definitely Trump is a wedge in that. And I can agree to that 100%. For me, I'm seeing this as impartial. I'm sitting behind and I'm trying to see what the hell's going to happen. And I think we're going to have a lot more information come out than what we have now that Harris is officially the runner for the Democratic Party. I think now the Republicans are really going to start trying to dig up her entire past and try to find the tiniest of specks and turn it to the biggest oil spill possible. So that's my opinion. That's what I think is going to tend to happen. And yeah, just want to pass it on to you, Joe, for your closing thoughts really on this whole position.
Well, I think I've already said it. It's going to be a kind of insane run to November. I don't know how it's going to play out. To be honest with you, like I said, it's going to be a debate where I don't think it matters what their real agendas are. I think people are already set in stone of maybe who they want to vote for already. And that's kind of a shame because we haven't really heard from Kamala yet and what her goals are as president. I'm hoping we just don't have another Hillary situation. I think it's time for the United States to kind of move on from what's kind of been a senior home. And it's I don't know, for the last 8 years I feel like we've had two people that have been so out of touch with today's society. I think it's time that somebody takes office that understands the youth, understands maybe what students are going through, that maybe wasn't too long. I shouldn't say that. Kamala, I think, went to school in Canada. And I think she went to school in McGill, if I'm not even mistaken. Yeah. Hey, home province, let's go.
What's up?
I don't know. I just think having somebody that understands the American student, understands what the American student is going through. So when we talk about things like waiving student debts, somebody understands that and doesn't just kind of look at things like a giant fuck you to anybody who questions them and really understands why they're being questioned. And that's why I don't see Trump fit for presidency. Not because he's a bad leader. He's a bad leader for what I'm about to say, but
he's a bad leader. He's a bad leader.
Not because he's not because he was a shitty president or anything like that. Just because you should be able to understand why you're being criticized, and you should be able to take that criticism and look at it for what it is, and try to figure out how we can make things better. Trump is not somebody who takes criticism. I think that's very evident, and we've seen that already.
Yeah.
And we kind of have to look maybe at different options. Personally, I like leaders who are, if you tell them what's wrong, they try to figure out why this person's feeling the way they feel. So, United States, it's up to you. In 3 months' time, I have a Facebook reminder that I had since 2016. And it was a post I posted the night of the elections. I'm looking directly into the camera. And I quote, "America, when I wake up, this better be fixed." And I was referring to Trump leading the presidential race over Hillary Clinton in 2016. I hope to God I don't have to requote that Facebook post I did in 2016. I hope I don't, because Jesus Christ, nobody uses Facebook anymore, and I don't know how much more I ever really need to requote that. So that's my question. If you guys vote, I hope you guys vote. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. I hope you guys vote. Everybody has a voice. Me and Theo, we can't vote in the U.S. electoral campaign. But we do vote for the Canadian electoral campaign, and that's a shit show in and of itself that we're eventually going to get to one of these days. But yeah, I think everyone should go vote, whether you're Democratic or Republican or whether you're neutral. Your vote does have consequences and should be treated as such. Don't treat it like a joke. Please don't treat it as a joke. Please. I'm begging you. Don't say it because of the memes. And yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think me and Theo have a lot of content lined up too, going into this electoral campaign that we're very excited to show here on the Uncut Podcast. And yeah, Theo, I'm going to leave you with some closing remarks, but for the audience, yeah, we just kind of want to know, what do you guys think, right? Guys, Kamala, you got, actually, no, I don't want to know what you guys think. Actually, I don't want any more debates going on. What do you guys think about the presidency? And how do you guys feel about this whole Joe Biden stepping down situation? That's fucking crazy. We haven't seen this in a long freaking, I don't think we've ever seen it. It's unprecedented. You know.
Yeah. It's pretty much unprecedented, and Joe's right. Share your comments with us. We're more than happy to engage with you. Thank you so much to all of you for listening to the podcast and listening on to Canadians essentially ramble on for the U.S. elections. Again, we're going to be as consistent as we can with uploading schedules. We got some exciting topics that we're going to try and do, and some exciting new projects that we want to try and do with Joe. So we're going to keep you posted on that end. Again, you can hear this podcast absolutely on every single platform where you can essentially stream a podcast, be Google Play, Amazon Play, Spotify, you name it, we're there. And as always, drop us a like, share it with anyone that you think could gain something from hearing this podcast, or that essentially would like to hear our thoughts on what's happening. And as always, I've been Theo. Thank you so much for listening. I've been joined by my incredible co-host, Joe. And we're going to see you on the next one. See ya.